Hi, my name is Tamara, and you are watching Things Even a Monkey Should Know. Hello, hello! Thank you so much for joining me again today. As you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, I'm not a professional anything except artist, but I have learned there are a number of things around the house and out in the yard and on my cars that I can do myself and often save myself time, money, and aggravation. So hopefully you have saved those things now too. Today is step 2 in the journey of reupholstering our dining room chairs, and today we are rebuilding the support inside of the chair. So let's get started. Well, of course, we're going over the things that you're going to need today first, and we have quite a few things today. Now, of course, the first thing that you're going to need is your chair that you're working on, and we are following the journey of chair number 4, so I brought number 4 here to do this today. You're going to need whatever it is that you're using to revitalize the support in this chair, and in my case, I am using 3/8" plywood. So this did have that webbing stuff in the chair, but I really want something firmer because it's nicer to sit your cheeks on something that doesn't feel like it's going to fall through onto the floor. You could probably use 1/4" plywood, but I just feel safer with 3/8, so that's what we're using. You are going to need something to cut that plywood. And you want to make sure, so you're going to want a jigsaw because you can cut out, crazy shapes with this. And you want to make sure that you have the correct blade on your jigsaw. You are going to need probably a measuring tape. Going to need a pencil. Make sure it has a sharp lead on it. I made that mistake last time. You may need, this is not a for sure, it's an I think. You may need a mallet, you may need a hammer. They're just good things to have in the area. May need a set of pliers, again, good things to have in the area. Probably going to need a couple of quick clamps. They're just easy to use. What else do we need? We're going to need to have a 1x2 to help support our new support. So we're support. You are also going to need to have a 1x1. You may want to have a rag towel in the area just to set your chair on so that it doesn't get any additional scratches, or we can keep it as nice as possible. In my case, I'm using nails to add my supports in, so I have decided to use my pneumatic finish nailer. You can use screws also, but to me this is quicker and easier. You're going to need, if you have a pneumatic nailer, of course you need an air compressor. We're going to need wood filler of some description. I don't care what brand, just make sure that it's a good wood filler. And we're going to need sandpaper. Last but certainly not least, we are going to need wood glue of some sort. Again, the brand doesn't matter as long as it's a good wood glue, but y'all know how I like primate related brands and things, so I've got Gorilla Glue. The first step that we want to take, y'all, is to make the main part of our seat support. So we're going to turn our chair upside down onto our piece of plywood, and we want to get it as close to the edge as possible. Let's make sure you can see this. So everything is lined up. The back edge here is at the edge of the plywood. And then we want to go ahead and trace on the inside of the chair, just trace an outline with the pencil. And this is our pattern for what we're going to do next. Now we're going to take the jigsaw with, what did I forget to tell you to have? Safety glasses. Make sure that you have safety glasses anytime that you're cutting anything with a saw and other things too. We're going to take this and we're just going to cut our outline. And make sure if you have a jigsaw that has these different options of things to cut, that you have it on the correct option. So mine is on wood, and I am going to be doing a little bit of curving, so wood with a slight curve. So now all we're going to do is just follow our outline. So obviously this probably isn't going to fit perfectly right off the bat. So we're gonna have to do a little fitting, and I'm gonna go ahead and just put my clamps inside the chair on either side so that my wood piece does not fall through all the way through the chair and damage the rungs down here. And then I'm going to just put this in, and normally I would be doing this up more at waist level, but I want y'all to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm a little bit big over on this side, and I stick out a little too much in the front. So this is going to take a little bit of back and forth. Just expect that that's going to happen. So could I have made a little bit of a shortcut and just cut about 1/4 of an inch inside the lines that I made? Yes, I probably could have, but I am doing my best to get this to fit as closely as possible, so I would actually rather just go through and make the little cuts that I need to correct this to get it to fit inside of this chair frame. Now, what I've found that I really like doing on the others is this area right here that's in the front of the chair sticks up a little bit above the frame of the chair because the frame of the chair dips right here. There's nothing I can do about that. So what I've been doing is curving off this front edge using my belt sander, which I don't believe that I mentioned that we needed this, but you do want to have a belt sander available. I had it right in my stack of things to show you, and I totally missed it. So I'm going to go ahead and just round off this front edge so that whenever we put the padding on here later, then it doesn't catch. There's nothing sharp to stick into the back of your legs when you sit down. Now, does this have to be pretty and perfect? No, it does not, because we're not actually going to see this. The main thing you're trying to do is just get rid of this sharp edge up here. If you're not satisfied, you can still go back and give it a little more help, but I believe that this one is going to be fine. If you're satisfied with the shape of your seat and how it fits into your chair, now is a really good time just to go ahead and use your belt sander to sand off the rough edges so that you don't accidentally get a splinter while you're working on this. You might go ahead and sand this smooth also. The next thing that we want to do is put in our 1x2 supports. So we are going to turn our chair upside down, and we're going to measure. I am putting my 1x2s in across here and across here to support my top. So the first thing I want to know is approximately how wide this is. That is about 18.5 inches wide. I'm going to go ahead and cut this 1x2 off at 19 inches so I have a little bit of room to play, because we're going to cut this at a slight angle when all is said and done. And we're going to go ahead and use our jigsaw for everything today. So I'm going to put my wood up here right where it's going to go, and I'm going to make a little mark here, basically that is in the shape of this chair. And we can always cut off more, so always err on the side of not cutting off all that much. Now that we have that, we are going to cut these shapes that we just drew. And make sure that your blade is long enough to get all the way through your piece of wood. Let's see how our fit is. So the shape is reasonable. I gave it a little too steep of an angle, so I'm going to go ahead and just cut off the angle so that it's not quite as steep, and then this looks like it should pretty well fit in there. So So that is not a prescribed place where it has to go. So since I cut it just a little bit short, I'm moving it in just a bit, which will be fine. And now I'm going to do the same thing to get the wood piece back here. Let's go ahead and cut our small pieces that are going to go at our front and as our very front and back supports. And these I'm not measuring, I'm just holding them up and seeing what will fit in the space. Now here comes the fun part, that we actually get to attach all of this stuff to the chair. So let's go ahead and carefully put our main seat support into our chair. Well, that one just lines up pretty perfectly, doesn't it? Because it just falls right in there. So we have our seat sitting at the top of our chair now, and now we want to just go ahead and put in our supports. And the seat is letting us know exactly where the supports need to go, right? Like as in how deep in here. That's why I didn't mark. It's easier just to line things up, put them in there, and I'm gonna give it a couple of nails. Make sure to keep your hands out of the way as always. Now let's double check that our seat is where we want it. So it is flush with the sides of the chair. It angles up just a hair in the front. And it is flush in the back. So that's perfect. That's what we were looking for. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a couple more nails. Now we're gonna go ahead and put our wood seat in here. I am going to nail it in also. Make sure I know where those are. I have been using 2-inch nails in my nail gun, and I now switched to 1 3/4 so that I can do these last little trim pieces that are going to help keep this seat in place. Not trim, but support pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and use my clamps to clamp this in place because my hands are not strong enough to keep this little piece from popping out. So all I did was line this piece up next to this seat. Now we have that, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a third nail. I believe our chair is ready for its next step. For the sake of safety, I just want to point out, see how this came through, because that plywood was a lot softer than this wood on this chair. You can do one of two things. You can either bop these over with your hammer or with this, you can, with the wire cutters I mean, or another set of pliers, or you can cut them off. But in my case, I have actually been folding all of these over when they do this out the bottom, because we just want to make sure that we don't snag ourselves on these things in the future, and cutting them off still leaves a little bit of a point, and everything is going to be covered up in the end anyways. Now, why the Gorilla Glue? Well, a lot of times whenever you're working on old furniture, you are going to find places like this right here where this chair started to split because it's old and it had some abuse at some point. So I'm going to go ahead, and I did not mean to squirt that out so far like that, but I'm going to squirt some glue down in here where it's split, and then I'm going to clamp it, and we're going to leave this for a couple of hours before we go on to our next step. I'm still keeping this little cracked area clamped because it needs to be clamped for about 24 hours for that glue to really dry and really hold it well. But for the rest of this right now, at least I could come inside to show you what I'm doing. I've got this little sort of gap right here that, see how much higher the edge of this plywood is than this support right here. I really just want this to be the same height as this. So instead of cutting or trying to cut a really thin piece of wood, I'm going to use my wood filler, and I'm going to build this area up on both sides because, see, these are not even at the same height. I'm telling you, these chairs, I'm pretty sure were handmade. And so I'm wanting all of this to be flush with these edges. So I'm going to use, you could use anything. You could use a spoon, you could use your finger, you could use whatever you like to use to spread wood filler, but I'm just going to use this nice little Bondo spatula to pack this stuff in here and get it smooth, and then we're going to let this dry also for 24 hours. So we actually won't be able to finish this part until tomorrow because we're going to come back and we're going to sand it, and then we will officially be finished with this step. Are you all feeling tan, rested, and ready to go? So we've given this 24 hours to dry to make sure that it is all ready for us to sand. And also this part that we had to glue is ready to dry. And keep in mind that everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. So you may not have had anything to fill in with wood filler. You may have had more. You may have had more stuff to glue. You may have had nothing. Just use your best judgment to make sure that your chair is going to be as strong as possible so that, as I said before, we never have to do this part of the process ever again. Now I'm going to use some of my purple well, this is actually a 180. I believe I made the mistake of saying 120 yesterday, but it was quite hot and my brain was boiling as I was trying to make this video. So anyways, we're using the 180 sandpaper, which is actually one of my favorite grits because it's kind of in between everything. And then we're just going to hand sand this back down. Now, if you find that you need to do another layer of wood filler after this, then by all means do it. Just this is the time when we are making all of our adjustments to our chair. In case you all had any doubts about all the work that we just did, pretty solid, a lot more solid than it was before. I'm not afraid that I'm going to fall through this chair onto the floor. Hey, what do you know? Well, hey, we're all done with step number 2, which was just replacing the support system. I guess you could call it the support system, the sitting system inside of that old chair. So hopefully we will never have to do that again because now we have plywood and cross braces instead of webbing that rots and falls to pieces. Yay for us. So not too bad so far, right? Now, this is chair number 4 of 8 for me, so I've got 4 more of those to do. But y'all are getting a good taste of what I've been doing on this set so far. Next thing that we'll be doing is cutting out the foam and doing some stretching with some batting and blah, blah, blah. We'll be doing the next step next time. That's basically what this comes down to. Thank you so much for joining me again today. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that now. Share it with your friends. Thank you very much to everyone who already has subscribed. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.